Okay, everybody, here we are for the special hurricane edition of Module 3 of Intro to Web Apps. So because our lecture had to be canceled because the university closed on Tuesday, this is a one-time only video version of the Tuesday lecture. So I'm going to go over the things that I would have gone over in class, but not the quiz, because I don't want to put quiz questions on a video that people can download. So I will mention any quiz highlights in an announcement that I will post on Tuesday in Canvas. So you've got the normal assigned readings, right? And it looks like a lot, but of course there are a lot of illustrations in these chapters. And as always, you have a video playlist that is available on YouTube as well as the videos being in Canvas. So if you prefer to watch them using YouTube directly, you can do that. Okay, so I suggest that you watch all of them because what we're covering this week is the HTML tags, and it's all the tags that you haven't seen so far. So it's a pretty important week. So my notes, I'm going to emphasize first the use of the HTML attributes. What you see here is different kinds of HTML attributes. So in the image tag, the img element, we have an attribute that's src for source, and we have another attribute separate, alt, where we put our alternative text for screen readers. In the A element, the A tag, we have an attribute that's required when we're making a link. It's the href attribute. And we have an optional, sometimes yes, sometimes no, attribute called target. And what you're going to see is that every attribute in HTML has a name and a value. So in these cases that I've highlighted, you see that the names are src, source, alt, href, and target. The values would be different depending on what you need. So the value for the image at the top is images/sun.jpg. The value for the alt, the value for the href points to a page or a complete URL, depending on whether what you're linking to is local or remote out on another server. Target takes several different kinds of values, but the most common one is blank. That will open your link in a new tab or a new window. So it's important to understand that attributes go with particular HTML tags. You can't use just any attribute in any tag, and you can look these up in the documents for HTML at w3c.org. Or, ones you're going to use all the time, you're probably just going to memorize. This week's topics are the HTML for marking up text, links, and images. Now, you did images last week, so you're probably pretty cool with those. Links are very important because you're going to be always making links, right, in all your work, and various kinds of text markups beyond the H's and the P's that we did last week, okay? So we're not going to be able to ask questions and answer them in the video, but I've set up a discussion for you for this week because we're not having a lecture. So let me show you where that is. So in discussions in Canvas, there's a new discussion named Hurricane Week Discussion. And if you open that, you will be able to see that it's not for a grade, and you can just post any questions you have. And you can also help each other as long as you're not giving each other any code or answers to any questions, right? So I'll come in here, but you can also share with each other here if you have questions about how things work that are covered in the videos or in the book. Now, some common beginner errors are using an H element, H's are only for headings, using them for something that's not a heading. So one of the common things that I see, and this is a mistake, is when students use a heading for a byline or a caption. That's wrong. if you want a byline or a caption to look a certain way, you will be using CSS. For example, if you want it to be bold, if you want it to be larger or smaller than the other text on the page, right? Only use the H tags for actual headings, whether they're subheadings or, the heading above a chart or a table, but not for captions, not for bylines, right? Only if it functions as a heading, because HTML is for structure, right? Not for design. Also, incorrect use of the BR tag. Now, I didn't see any of this in assignment 1, which is great, but you do not throw in BR tags just to break a line for no good reason, okay? Because people have different widths on their browsers and their devices, and this is shown in one of the videos from this week where using a BR incorrectly will just make stuff look stupid. Another common error that beginners make is aligning the text in paragraphs in all kinds of dumb ways, including the alignment justify, which is the most wrong of all, but also using center a lot. And so if you look at these two examples, they come from an article about UX, user experience, and the point here is that aligned left text, which is the default in the P tag for HTML, so you don't have to do anything special. So what you see here on the left side of the screen, that is the default, and it is the best for readability, for users to be able to read the text quickly. What you see on the right is bad for readability because those uneven lines on the left side make it harder for the human eye, for the physiology of the eye, to actually read the text quickly and easily, right? So don't allow the left side of a paragraph to be ragged. Look again at the left side. The left side of the screen is correct. That text is not justified on its right side, okay? The right side of the lines are all different lengths, but the left side is justified, default for P's, that is the best, stick with that. So, centered text can be fine in an advertisement, on a billboard, when there are not many lines, like 2 or 3 lines. So probably a lot of you saw this ad with Colin Kaepernick when it came out, and it's a very impactful ad, but we notice that the text is centered across his face, and that's not bad for 2 lines usually, but I want to show you something about how we even would break lines if we were going to center text in this way. So the top version of the text from the ad, that's the way Nike laid this out. And the lines are almost the same length, so the centering in a way doesn't have an impact. The second version, where we've got 3 lines and 2 words on the final line of the 3, that works a little better because there's more differentiation among the 3 lines. But the third version is actually more impactful because that word everything being alone on the last line gives the text, the written printed text, gives it more impact. So if you're centering lines, it should be because there are very few lines and it's kind of like a slogan, or it's in the middle of a poster type thing or a meme. And think about how and where you break the lines in terms of the language and the grammar of the sentence. Proper alignment for your paragraphs in HTML is demonstrated in video 7. Now in assignment 2, you're going to be using 2 of the 3 different HTML list types. So there's 3 kinds, you're going to be using 2. These are shown in video 8. And you may wonder how I got the effects in my browser that you'll see when you watch the lists video, video 8. And so I have shown a screenshot here on the screen that's what I mean by what effects did I get, right? You can do this in your own browser and you can view the underlying HTML code on any web page, not just your own, on any web page anywhere on the web. And to do so, what you do in Chrome, you would go to the View menu at the top of the browser and choose Developer, and then slide over to Developer Tools. And that's how you open this panel where you can view the elements. Now, you can make this visibility panel, the tools, you can make them appear either on the side, on the left or the right side, or also you can make them appear on the bottom of your screen. You can do this in Safari and Firefox too. It's just that I don't know exactly what the steps are. But in Chrome, View menu, Developer, and then Developer Tools, and this will open up. And then you can right-click on anything in the left side on the real web page, and then you can see what the HTML is for that element over on the right-hand side. In the readings for this week, the content grouping elements, which are shown here, are covered, but we're not going to be using those until assignments 3 and 4. So this week's assignment, assignment 2, you don't have to know what these are, and you should not use them yet. There's going to be a whole assignment where you're required to use those, so don't worry about those just yet. Another important HTML concept for you to understand this week is block versus inline. And the simple difference is that block elements go all the way across the page from left to right automatically. You don't have to do anything, that's just their default behavior. Inline elements don't go all the way across. They will stay in line with other inline elements. Okay, now if they're in between two blocks, they'll look like a block, and images do this. Okay, so if you have an image between two blocks, the image acts like a block. But if you throw an image into the middle of a sentence, or if you put 3 images side by side, they will behave inline and they will go side by side with each other or with the text. This is also covered in a video this week, and it's covered in the book. This week you're going to be making clickable links for the first time. And there are 2 kinds basically. There is the kind of link where what you click is text, and by default it's blue and it's underlined. You can also make an image become a link by simply putting your IMG element into the middle of the opening and closing tags that make a link. These are the A tags. You can call a link an A element, but it will only work as a link if it has the href attribute. You'll remember I talked about attributes briefly at the beginning of this lecture. So these first 2 lines show the difference between making a link that's got text in it and making a link that has an image in it, or rather making an image become linked. You're going to have to do both of these things in the assignment, and they're covered in the video. There's also a difference between when you link to a page or an image that's part of your own materials or on your own website, and when you link out to a website or a page or an image that is somewhere else on the web, not on your own server. So for an external link, you're going to use the complete URL. So that's easy. You go into the browser address bar, you copy the entire address up there, the entire URL, then just paste it into the href between the quotes, and you won't make any typos and it'll work. But the internal pages have to show a precise path to where your asset is among your files. So if it's linking to another page, the path has to show where is that page in relation to the page the link appears on. If it's an image, where is that image among your files? And this week, you're going to make an images folder. And all your images have to be inside that folder for this assignment. Where is that images folder relative to your .html page? That depends how you write this href value. So if we look at an imaginary website, which is shown as a kind of diagram on the lower part of this page, you'll see that we have a site called at website.com. And we have a home page at the very top, index.html. But then we have folders that are at the same level as index.html. And they are named vacations and images and CSS. So those three folders are at the same level as that top index.html that's in yellow. Then inside the vacations folder, we have two folders, one named Mexico, one named Spain. So what you see with the blue highlighting at the top of the screen is you see how would I go from index.html to the page named mypage.html that's inside Mexico, and Mexico is inside vacations. Now there's a whole video about this. You need to be able to write these links so that they work and so they're not broken links. Because of course, broken links will lose you a lot of points on this assignment and on any future assignment. And the third example in blue here with // index.html, that is the way that you would get back up to index.html if you were writing a link on the page named My Page that's inside Mexico, that's inside vacations. This is one of the trickiest things you're going to learn in the first half of the semester. So please be sure to watch this video. It's quite important. Note that your images that show on the page are also now going to need a relative path because you're going to be putting your images inside a folder named Images. This is current standard best practice for all websites on all kinds of, from every kind of website there is. And so you want to learn how to get this right, okay? So that images folder, where is it relative to the page where you're trying to show the image? This is a little different from last week. One of the easiest tips I'm ever going to give you is to check your links, click them. So when you think your page is finished and you have some links or some linked images or both on your page, open it up in your browser and literally click each link and wait for the page to open. If the page opens, then your link is okay. If your link is written wrong, if you've got the wrong kind of quotation marks, no curly quotation marks, only straight up and down, straight quotation marks. If you've got spaces where there shouldn't be spaces, then your link will be broken. And of course, you'll lose a lot of points. But check your links yourself by opening your page and physically clicking the link. Wait to see if the page opens that you expect. Image files are covered in video 12. And from that video and from the book, you're going to learn about which file format, JPEG or PNG, is best depending on what kind of image it is you're saving. This week, you're going to save a photograph, so it's probably almost certainly going to be a .jpeg image, okay? Then another thing to understand this week, and I mentioned this before briefly, is that images are inline by default. So if your image is outside a P element, you won't really notice this unless you have one or more images beside another image. Then you might notice, depending on how wide the image is. But if you drop an image into the middle of a P element, it's going to look like this camel that you see here on screen. And this is covered in detail in video 12, which I highly recommend that you watch. This week, I also want you to get clear in your mind the difference between what we call image size and file size. So every file on the web and on your hard drive has a size, right? Your HTML files might be 5 kilobytes or something like that. Your image files may be 500 kilobytes or 1 megabyte. Depending on if you took it with an iPhone 10, it might be 3 megabytes, right? So file size is how big is that file? How much space does it take up on a hard drive? How long does it take to download? Those things are affected by the file size. Image size is measured in pixels for the web because pixels are what you've got on a computer screen or a mobile screen. So the width and the height, and if you see the two numbers together, width is always the first number. They are pixel widths, and you have to think about, well, how wide is the screen that you're going to be on? So mobile screens are often between about 300 pixels wide and maximum, not counting tablets, about 400 or 450 pixels wide. So if your image is wider than that in pixels, it would go off the side of the screen and it would look really stupid, right? So this is covered in the book and the videos, and you want to understand the difference between these two ways of measuring images. This week there is a walkthrough video for assignment 2. In the future, you're not going to have a walkthrough video, but this week, because it's only the second assignment, you do have a nice walkthrough video that shows you what to do. Of course, you still need to read the assignment document, and you really need to check that rubric and make sure you did everything. As far as image editing programs, there is no need to edit the images that you use this week. You're just going to download them in the correct sizes and they'll be fine, no editing. But in the future, if you do need to change the image size of an image, you're going to need to edit it. And if you need to convert one kind of file type to another, you're going to need to open that image in an editor. Next week, we're going to start CSS, which is very exciting. Please remember to use this discussion in Canvas this week if you have any questions about the lecture or the homework or the videos. Please pop into this discussion and post your question. One last tip for this week and for all future weeks. You need to understand the difference between curly quotes and straight quotes. So when we type code, we only use straight quotes. We only use straight quotes. Curly quotes break your code. They don't work correctly when you upload your page to the web, and they will cause your code to be invalid. Now, I'm referring to the quotation marks that are inside the pointy brackets, right? So quotes that are around the value of an attribute, any kind of quotes that are inside a tag, right? So they have to be straight quotes. If you type them in Atom, they will always be straight. If you type them in a Google Doc or a Word doc, they will automatically be curly. And then if you copy and paste into Atom, they will stay curly and they'll break your code. So don't do that. Some students did that in assignment 1, and I gave them a pass. But from now on, if you have curly quotes, it's going to break your code. It's going to cost you points in your assignments. So know the difference. Okay, have a good week. Stay dry in the rain. And I will see you, my lab, I'll see Wednesday. And I made an announcement about Friday workshop hours, so you'll be able to come to those if you're still having trouble with assignment 2 before your deadline this Friday. Okay, have a good week.